I was recently asked a question, what is rethinkingthedollar.com? Why rethinking the dollar? What is this all about? Why would I want to rethink the dollar? That's what I use every day, stuff like that. And so my response was, simple. There's more to the word dollar than we were taught in school. Therefore, there's more to the dollar as far as, a financial tool that we use daily in our daily transactions, as well as, rely upon to save and to invest with and things like that. So I tried to give a very simple explanation as to, what the RTD or Rethinking the Dollar is all about. I have RTD interviews where I interview economists and best-selling authors, just to give a different perspective of what's going on or what's the alternative side of things from the mainstream media. And so in order to really try to give it, give it in a very simple and easy to understand way, I just wrote a quick little blog post with just the three forms of what are considered or are what's categories of the financial tool known as a dollar. And so the article is entitled, Beware, All Dollars Aren't Created Equal. And so I'll post it below this video for you to read yourself. But just to give a summation of what it's about, it has to do with the fact that, when you ask someone what is a dollar, they'll immediately resort to answering in regards to a piece of paper, which is usually what's in their pocket. But it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that, and I think right now, at this current point in time, it's very important for everyone to begin understanding how important it is to know the various forms of what's considered a dollar. And so in this article here, I basically mentioned the three primary things that's associated with the word dollar, and one being the international dollar, which is in the form of all the treasury bills, I have bonds, T-bills, notes, things like that, all the government issued debt that's traded globally, in which countries actually hold them in their savings to do business with one another. And then there's the fiat paper dollar, which is what we consider cash, or that's the domestic form of exchanging value amongst the producer and the consumer, um, amongst the commoner. And so that's the Federal Reserve notes and our coins and things like that. And then there's the lawful dollar, which is what has been considered throughout time to be money, and that's the form of precious metals such as gold and silver, what our country was originally founded on. So if you were to click on these different links here, you'll get more detailed information. That is not my opinion; these are just things that I decided to attach here. But um, one thing I want to mention that would be very, very important and worthy of taking time to really research on for yourself is I've included two pictures here. And this first person here is Janet Yellen. The second person is Alan Greenspan. Both are people who are, quote unquote, the presidents, or they're the head honchos behind our monetary system, or they are part of it rather. And just to give you an idea of who they are, I actually went to Wikipedia and typed in Alan Greenspan. He's an American economist, been in the financial monetary realm pretty much all his life. And so he was the chairman, 13th chairman of the Federal Reserve System, from 87 to 2006, and pretty much he was the president of the fiat dollar, of the cash that we use today. And a lot of decisions he made during his tenure as the quote-unquote president really affected the usage and the value of the dollar. And then the next person is Janet Yellen. She's the current Fed chairman. She's the 15th. And so she's a lifelong economist and been in the whole academic world forever. And she's currently on the throne as of now, in regards to overseeing our current monetary policy for our central bank. And so just to give you an idea as to, behind the scenes, what the technical jargon might be as far as what a dollar is and what's money, and why it's important to understand the difference between money and currency. I want to play for you a quick synopsis of what actually came from their mouths directly over the last couple months that plays into the idea of understanding what is a dollar and why it's time to begin rethinking the dollar based upon their own words. So here's Alan Greenspan at the Council on Foreign Relations a couple months back, and he actually is asked a question that I think you should hear.
I just want to ask though, one of the really interesting chapters in your book is about gold. And there's been a lot of media debate in the past about your views on gold. You yourself have posed the question as to why would anyone want to buy this barbarous relic? I don't know whether John Paulson is in the audience, but it's an interesting question. But do you think that gold is currently a good investment given what you're saying about the potential for turmoil?
Yes.
Do you put...
Economists are usually perfect in equivocating. In this case, I didn't equivocate. Look, remember what we're looking at. Gold is a currency. It is still, by all evidences, the premier currency where no fiat currency, including the dollar, can match it. And so that the issue is, if you're looking at a question of turmoil, you will find, as we always have in the past, it moves into the gold price. But the gold price is actually sort of half a commodity price. So when the economy is weakening, it goes down like copper. But it's also got a monetary characteristic which is intrinsic. It's not inbred into human beings. I cannot conceive of any mechanism by which you could say that, but it behaves as though it is. Intrinsic currencies like gold and silver, for example, are acceptable without a third-party guarantee. And I mean, for example, at the end of World War II, or just at the end of it, Germany could not import goods without payment in gold. The person who shipped the goods in would accept the gold and didn't care if there's any credit standard associated with that. That is a very rare phenomenon. It's the reason why, for example, in a renewal of an agreement that the central banks have made, European central banks, I believe, about allocating their gold sales, which occurred when gold prices were falling down, that has been renewed this year with a statement that gold serves a very important place in monetary reserves. And the question is, why do central banks put money into an asset which has no rate of return, but cost of storage and insurance and everything else like that? Why are they doing that? If you look at the data, with a very few exceptions, all of the developed countries have gold reserves. Why?
So there you go. I mean, Alan Greenspan himself mentioning that, gold is a currency and no fiat currency, as I mentioned, fiat paper money, including the dollar, can match it. And so this is, this is monetary education directly from, the horse's mouth. I mean, this guy here was in charge of our economy for 19 years. And if he says that no fiat currency, including the dollar, can match gold, then that right there lets you know that there's more to the dollar than what we've been told. And then here's the current Fed chairman, Janet Yellen. She's, a lifelong economist for the most part, been in the monetary financial banking sector forever. She recently made a statement that's very disturbing as well, where she actually, probably didn't mean to say it, but yet she pretty much summed it up to where, this is why the rethinking the dollar model or concept is so important. This is an interview from, she was asked a question in regards to some negative interest rates, which is basically the price of cash. The price of money in Europe now is basically very cheap. It's basically free. They're giving it away because there's negative interest rates. So for the most part, people aren't able to make any interest whatsoever on their money because they're giving it away to the point where, you can't, receive any yield from your investment. So she's asked a question here about negative interest rates, and she actually hints at the fact that cash is not a good store of value. Listen.
The Swiss, the ECB, Denmark, and a few others.
Well, I mean, it really is interesting to see these European countries moved to negative interest rates. And in a way, I'm surprised that there hasn't been more pickup in the demand for cash. Cash is not a very convenient store of value, but at a minus 75 basis point interest rate, I would have thought that maybe there would be some move.
There you have it. Cash is not a very convenient store of value. And so these pictures here, I just made them up real quick, and I just basically gave some words from their own mouth. Cash is not a very convenient store of value. And then it says here, gold is a currency. It still is, by all evidence, a premier currency. No fiat currency or fiat currency, including the dollar, can match it. So these are people who actually, she's running our economy. He used to run our economy, but these are people who are in control of the central banks. And the central bank is the one that issues our currency, what we use and what we go to work for and what people use to save and all of that right there. So to me alone, this is enough information to begin to allow me to ask some questions, which will cause me to rethink some things. And that's kind of how the rethinking the dollar model came into being. But I also summed up this article here with basically a question. You know, what are you doing to improve your monetary literacy? How important is it for you to preserve your life's work? When I mean life's work, I mean, we all get up and we all go somewhere. We all exchange our time, gifts, and talents for a financial tool that we're relying upon to last us throughout the years. And according to these two sources here, there are some things that we need to be asking about the dollar. And it's likely that you didn't learn this information in school. So what do you do now that you know about the Rethinking Dollar model? And I suggest, the simplicity of money. And so I wrote this book with the idea of basically giving some detailed information with graphs, pictures about the subject of money and as I call it, the 4 money lessons that you would not learn in school. And so just to thumb through the book real quickly, the idea came about because I want to explain further things that I didn't know. After having gone through 19,000 hours of actual in-class education, there's a lot of things that were left out that I didn't receive. So I assume it's probably the same for you as well, unless you actually specialize in the subject matter. And the good thing is, most of the people, I would say 99.99% of the population, did not do such. So this is information you need to know. And so just to thumb through the book, one point I wanted to hit at was the very last monetary lesson. And as I scroll through it briefly, I would encourage you to get a copy of it. It's free, so it's something that will basically help improve your monetary literacy. And the fourth one is the most important one because it kind of deals with the whole idea of what these two people, said in regards to our monetary system or the dollar. And so it has to do with the Federal Reserve System in general. I mean, not too many people ask questions about the Fed or know even what the Fed is. And so chapter 4 is called, What is the Fed? Is it federal or private? And so I go through here a little summary of the historical aspects of how the Federal Reserve came into being. And I actually list a couple names and some dates and times and locations of things that can really help you understand more about this system. But ultimately, what I want to really hit at is that the Fed's product is debt. Those two individuals, Alan Greenspan and Janet Yellen, they're in charge of issuing a product or a service to the American people, which is ultimately debt. Their product is debt. I mentioned that here, that every company is in business to make a profit. And in order to make a profit, you have to have something to exchange to the people in return for their money or their energy or time or whatnot. And so we have Apple makes iPhone products, and so there are businesses in the industry to make money. If they don't make money, there is no business. And the Federal Reserve is the same way. There are private institutions brought together by a group of private financial investors / banks for the sole purpose of using the power granted to them by the government of the United States to basically issue something that doesn't even exist apart from them printing it on a printing press. And so while the citizens exchange their time, energy, and effort, all they receive in return is a product in the form of debt from a private institution to utilize as their financial means to fund their cost of living. And so I mentioned here a gentleman by the name of Mariner Eccles, who was one of the federal chairmen, way back in the day. And it's in 1941, he gave an actual statement, or statements rather, before the Housing, Bank, and Currency Committee, where he actually basically said what money was. And it goes, Congressman Patman, who was the committee chairman who was asking him this question, and said, Mr. Eccles, how did you get the money to buy those $2 billion of government securities? So this is all in reference to the Great Depression. Eccles said, we created it. Patman, out of what? Eccles, out of the right to issue credit money. Credit money. That's a term right there I would recommend that you look up. But more importantly, if you want, it's included in this book if you go up to credit chapters 1 and 2 and 3. But then he says, and there is nothing behind it, Patman, is there, except our government's credit. So we have credit money, government's credit. Eccles, that is what our monetary system is. If there were no debts in our money system, there would be no money, or as he meant, no currency. And so this is just an actual event that took place in 1941 that pretty much basically exposes the fact that, what's considered money is just government's credit. It's the fact that a private bank or private institution utilizes the credit of a nation, which is backed by 300 million people's labor, to then pay taxes upon that credit that's borrowed into existence. And that's how this operation stays in place. So this is just, an inside look into the book of The Simplicity of Money, which is definitely one of the most, in my opinion, simple yet easy to understand ways of getting a way to improve your monetary education. So I want to encourage you to get a copy of it if it's something that definitely interests you, which I know it should be, because it will, with all the things happening globally. But this is just a simple way of explaining the Rethinking the Dollar concept. Hope that you found this informative. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Leave a comment with this video, and most importantly, get the book and read it and share it. Thanks.